He told me he was disconnected from his emotions. So I disconnected our Wi-Fi, smart TV, streaming accounts, and left him with just his thoughts. He hated it. I'm 42, divorced, with 2 kids in college. After my divorce, I was ready to start fresh. That's when I met Ryan. We met at a poetry reading in Austin, Texas. He was sitting alone, reading a book I couldn't pronounce. I was drawn to his calm demeanor. We started talking, and soon we were spending evenings walking around Lady Bird Lake. Ryan was different from my ex. He was quiet, thoughtful, and seemed emotionally intelligent. He talked about meditation, journaling, and emotional growth. I thought I had found someone who truly understood me. After 14 months, we moved in together. I left my cozy duplex in South Congress for his smart home in Hyde Park. Everything was automated: lights, thermostat, curtains. At first, it felt like living in a sci-fi movie. But soon, I realized our relationship wasn't as warm as it once was. Ryan would spend hours in his VR headset or meditating with earbuds in. When I tried to talk to him, he seemed distant. One night, I told him I felt like I was losing my daughter. He responded, "You're attaching meaning to pain. Let it go." I was stunned. I said, "She's my child. I'm allowed to hurt." He nodded and said, "Pain is information, not identity. Don't identify with it." I started to feel invisible. He once told me, "I feel like I'm living in third person, like I'm watching my life on a screen." I asked what he meant, and he said, "I'm disconnected from my emotions. It's better this way." One Saturday, I made his favorite breakfast and brought it to him while he was watching a documentary. He didn't say thanks or even look up. I stood there, holding the plate, waiting. Finally, I said, "Ryan, can you look at me for a second?" He looked confused and said, "I'm watching this. Can we not do this now?" I said, "You don't talk to me. You don't see me. You treat me like a roommate with boobs." He shrugged and said, "You're being reactive. Try observing your emotions instead of acting on them." That night, while he was asleep, I disconnected the entire house from the internet. No Wi-Fi, no smart lights, no streaming, no Alexa. I shut it all down. The next morning, he was confused. He tried resetting the router, called the internet company, and they told him the service had been canceled by the account owner, me. He looked at me and asked, "Why would you do this?" I said, "So you can sit with your emotions, like you wanted." He was silent. For once, truly silent. By day 2, he was pacing, twitchy, and couldn't figure out how to turn on the lights manually. By day 3, he actually spoke to me like a real person. He said, "I feel off." I said, "Welcome back." A week later, he moved out. He left a note that said, "This isn't my frequency anymore." I kept the house, got a real coffee maker, and started reading books with pages. I learned to garden and planted tomatoes. For the first time in years, I felt human again. 6 months later, he sent me an email. "I think I'm feeling things again, and it's awful." I didn't reply. Let him sit with that. About 2 months after Ryan moved out, I was finally getting used to silence, not the kind that weighs heavy like it did with him, but the kind that feels like space to breathe. I'd stop jumping every time I heard a notification. I went for walks. I sat on the porch with a mug of real coffee, not something pre-programmed to make itself. My phone lived in a drawer half the time. It felt like my life was mine again. Then one afternoon, a sleek black car pulled into my driveway. I didn't recognize it at first. Ryan stepped out. Same bland expression, same perfect posture, but now wearing some kind of smartwatch and noise-canceling earbuds. I didn't invite him in. He stood outside and said, "I came to get the meditation chair." I blinked. The what? The gravity balance meditation chair in the guest room. I left it here. I hadn't touched that room since he moved out. I'd planned to turn it into an art space, but it still had his weird yoga blocks and incense trays in the corner. I said, "You'll have to wait. I'm in the middle of something." He just stared. "I'll wait." I shut the door, not slamming it, just shutting it firm. Clean. Solid. 10 minutes later, he was still out there. I let him in, told him to get his chair and go. He walked straight in, like he still lived there. Like nothing had changed. As he carried it out, he paused. You disconnected me to make a point. I didn't say anything. He added, I've been in a sensory deprivation retreat. That's why I emailed you. I almost laughed. So now you're doing extreme nothing as therapy? He smiled faintly. Still reactive. And just like that, he was gone. The weird part? A week later, my smart meter pinged. An alert from the electric company. Usage was spiking between 1 to 4 a.m. I checked the logs. Thermostat changes. Lights flickering on. Door sensors. I don't even have a smart system anymore. That night, I stayed up. Around 2:43 a.m., the living room lights blinked on. Then off. Then on again. My heart jumped. I crept down with a flashlight. Nothing. Everything was still. I checked my phone in the morning, new app notifications from accounts I hadn't reinstalled. My Netflix was logged in from another device. I called the internet company. They said someone had accessed my network using old admin credentials linked to the first router Ryan installed. He was hacking in. Or worse, he never really left. I changed every password. Factory reset every device. Replaced my router. Still, things kept happening. The coffee machine beeped on at 5 a.m., even though it was unplugged. My Kindle played one of those weird soundscapes he used to fall asleep to. Then I found the speaker hidden under the couch. One of those little portable ones he loved. He must have left it there. I hadn't noticed it before. I threw it in the trash. The next morning, it was sitting on my porch. Powered on. Volume turned all the way up. I sent him a message, stay out of my life, or I get a lawyer. He replied, this is what you wanted, right? Total awareness. No distractions. My stomach turned. I went to the police. They were polite, but said unless he physically entered the house or made threats, there wasn't much they could do. Digital harassment was hard to trace without a serious breach, so I bought cameras. Not smart ones. Old school, motion sensing, battery-powered with no apps. Just a screen. 2 nights later, I caught someone in the backyard. Not breaking in. Just standing there. Hands in pockets. Staring at the house. He left before I could get out there. But it looked like him. Same posture. Same silhouette. I didn't sleep that night. And when I did, I dreamed of silence so deep, it echoed. I had disconnected everything, but now he was trying to reconnect. To me. Whether I wanted it or not. I stopped using my phone entirely for a while. Turned it off and left it in the drawer. Got a prepaid flip phone for emergencies. I kept the old one in a Faraday bag I bought online. Paranoia? Maybe. But when you start noticing patterns, it's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition. A few days after the backyard camera caught that figure, who looked just like Ryan, I had the locks changed again. 3rd time in 2 months. This time I got physical deadbolts. No more keypads, no codes. Just metal and key. I also started sleeping with a crowbar under my bed. Then I got a call. On the prepaid flip phone. No name. Just a voice. You can't keep closing doors. Eventually, you'll have to open one. I froze. It wasn't Ryan's voice. It was a woman. I had a hard time breathing after that. Felt like something was pushing on my chest. I went to my neighbor, Veronica. She's in her 60s, knows everybody on the block, always baking something. I told her what was going on in small doses. She listened. Offered to let me crash in her guest room anytime. Then she said something odd. That quiet man you were with, he came by last week. Said he was dropping off something for you. My stomach dropped. What did he leave? She shook her head. Didn't leave anything. Just stood there for a while. Said he was meditating for you. That night, the lights flickered again. But I disconnected everything. No smart bulbs. No timers. Nothing. I went to the breaker box. Found a small device attached to the side, something wired in. I ripped it out and took it to a tech shop. The guy said it was a signal repeater, something used to piggyback off a home's electrical grid. It wasn't mine. The next day I got a handwritten letter. No return address. Same handwriting Ryan used in his journals. Inside was a single sentence. You disconnected me from the world. Now I'm watching what you do with the silence. And then, tucked behind it, was a photo of me sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, taken from across the street. I was in my robe, alone, reading. He had been watching, maybe still was. I went to the police again, brought the photo, the repeater device, the voicemail. This time, they took me seriously, opened a formal report, promised to monitor the situation. But I knew how this stuff went. Unless he did something violent or obvious, there wouldn't be much they could do. So I made a plan. I dug up an old contact from my pre-divorce days. Greg, an ex-cop, now working in private security. He owed me a favor. I asked him to install something quiet. Not flashy. Just hidden motion sensors around the perimeter. Manual. No cloud. He agreed. 3 nights later, one triggered. Backyard. Same time, 2:46 a.m. Greg stayed in his van down the street for a few days after that. Watching. Recording. That's when we saw her. The woman. Not just a voice this time. She was real. Early 30s, long brown hair, black hoodie. She came from the alley, crouched by the garden gate, held something to the camera lens. Didn't break it. Just blocked it. When Greg checked the footage, we caught her face. Clear. I didn't recognize her. But he did. That's Erin. She used to be married to a guy on the force. Had a breakdown a few years back. Went off-grid. Some people said she joined one of those new age groups. Suddenly, everything clicked. Ryan wasn't just meditating. He was recruiting. Another letter came. This one from her. Not typed. Not neat like Ryan's. Scrawled. He doesn't belong to you anymore. You woke something in him and then tried to kill it. He came to us broken. We're helping him ascend. Ascend? What the hell kind of therapy was this? The letter ended with, "The silence you gave him has become the language we speak." I went back to the police. They told me to consider a restraining order. I started carrying pepper spray in every pocket. I changed my route to work. Stopped going to the grocery store alone. And then one morning, I walked outside to find a small wooden box on my porch. Inside, pieces of his old meditation beads, burnt at the ends. Underneath, a note. "Your silence is cracking." He hears it. He's almost through. I moved in with Veronica the same day. But even now, I feel him pressing against the edges of my quiet. Waiting, watching, like the silence itself has become his voice. Veronica didn't ask too many questions when I moved in. She just made up the guest bed and left the porch light on every night. Her kindness made me feel worse in a way, like I was dragging her into something dangerous. I didn't sleep much. Every creak in the house felt like a warning. After a week of silence, another letter came. Taped to Veronica's mailbox. Black marker, sloppy handwriting. "He's ready. You should be too." No name. No return address. Just that. That night, Veronica's dog started barking around 3 a.m. loud. Sharp. I ran to the window and saw nothing. No shadows. No movement. But I felt it, that same shift in the air. Like someone was close. We checked the cameras the next morning. One caught a glimpse, a shape in the trees behind the fence. Watching the house. That was it. I called Greg. Told him I wanted this done. No more warnings. No more hiding. I said, if he wants silence, let's give him some of his own medicine. Greg's plan was simple. Bait and trap. We staged it. I'd go back home, stay for one night. Lights off. Curtains open just a little. Enough to tempt him. And we'd catch them both, Ryan and his little follower. Greg set up the trap. Cameras. Physical tripwires that didn't need power. A noise alert connected to a silent signal he'd get in his van. I moved back in for one night. One long, quiet night. Around 2:50 a.m., it started. The motion alert tripped. Someone was in the house. No broken glass. No forced doors. But someone was there. Upstairs. I hid in the kitchen, behind the island, holding the crowbar. Footsteps creaked above me. Then down the stairs. Soft, slow, like they wanted me to hear them. Wanted to be heard. I gripped the crowbar tighter, shaking. Then I saw him. Ryan, in a long black coat, calm as ever, smiling like he'd just finished a yoga session. Behind him, Erin, that same blank face. Her eyes didn't even blink. He said, "You gave me silence." And in the silence, I saw the truth. Everything is noise. Even love. I said nothing. He took a step closer. "You can't fix people, but you can free them." Then Erin spoke. "She tried to delete you." That's when Greg burst through the back door, gun drawn, shouting. Ryan didn't even flinch. Erin did. She reached for something in her jacket. Pepper spray, maybe worse. Greg tackled Ryan to the ground. Erin screamed and ran. Greg yelled for me to stay back. I didn't. I stepped forward and hit Ryan in the shoulder with the crowbar. He went down hard, still smiling. Police came within minutes. Erin was caught 2 blocks down. She had a taser and a USB loaded with data, footage, files, notes. They were building something. A whole digital network of disciples Ryan had been collecting. Not a cult. Not yet. But something close. He was arrested. Charged with stalking, digital intrusion, and attempted breaking and entering. Erin too. But the damage was done. In the silence, I had made a mistake too. I disconnected him. Not to protect myself, but to punish him. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted him to feel helpless. And in that void, he built something worse. He found others just as broken. Gave them his silence. And they followed him into it. My revenge didn't just hurt him. It created him. I've sold the house. I'm moving north, somewhere colder, quieter, but the real kind. Not forced silence. Not the kind you weaponize. Just peace. Real peace. And every night, I check the locks twice. Not out of fear, but to remind myself what happens when you mistake silence for healing. Sometimes, silence is just the start of something darker. And sometimes, you're the one who lit the match.